All right, so let's go over here to the 4 key functions. And all the way to the left, I just clicked on this 4 key functions tab, and then I'm going to go down here to doing the business. So this is where your processes are listed, and you can access a process just by clicking it here on this list. Or if you've linked it to a job description over here through the org chart, then you can access the process there as well. When you select a process, it takes you to this screen, which is called the Process Tools page. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Today I'm going to go over some of the general functionality of the Process Tools page, and we're going to specifically talk about work plans here and checklists. After that, we're going to run out of time, and next week I'll finish up the conversation of the Process Tools page and talk about all these other tools. So I want to discuss technically how to use this page and how to build work plans and checklists, but I'm also going to talk about what makes a good work plan, which is an important thing to know when you're documenting. So right here across the middle of the screen, this is called I call it the breadcrumb trail. It's just I don't know if that's a term everyone uses, but I call this a breadcrumb trail. And this is just a navigation trail. So when you're on a process, you can always see where it is on the 4 functions. So I know this is in doing the business right here, and I know this is in the client service subfunction, and it's the customer complaint process. Down below this trail, these are the details of the process. So I've got the title right here. Underneath the title is the objective or the purpose of the process. And then you have these 2 functions. One, this is called process documentation completed. So this, if checked, will turn the process title black everywhere you see it in TouchStone. So this is just a sign that the process is finished. The documentation has been created. Right below that is how you put a process in the public folder. So if you want to know more about these 2 functions, if that doesn't make sense to you, you can always go up to the Resource Center here and search for that, or listen to the very first webinar, because I talked extensively about what these 2 fields are. If you want to edit the title of a process, it's just click. So I just clicked right here on the title, and it opens for me to edit. Underneath the title is the objective field. That is also click to edit. If I just click this, it's going to open for me to edit. So generally, the objective of a process is the purpose. It's the reason it exists. It defines what it is. It doesn't go into details on how to handle customer complaints. That belongs over here in these tools, the step-by-step for that. So this is generally high level. It's a sentence or a phrase. Sometimes I see people start to document the process right here in the objective field. So they're going step 1, step 2, and I think it's because they don't realize that there are these templates over here to use. So if you've done that, cut and paste that information out and put it into a work plan and keep this kind of high level. This objective shows up on the job description that the process is linked to. So it gives the person looking at it the title and then the purpose of the definition of what's in that process, which can be useful. So right above here, there's this toolbar item called Link to Job Description. So you'll see this on every process tools page that you click on, and if I select this, it'll show me which job descriptions this process has been linked to. So right here, I see it's on the Manager of Admin Finance. And from this screen, I can link it and unlink it from job descriptions or to job descriptions. So if I click Bookkeeper here, it's asking me if I want it in the strategic or the tactical section of the job description, and then I hit link, and then you see it's now on the Bookkeeper's job description. I can also unlink it just by clicking, and now it's removed from the Bookkeeper's job description. So that's linked to job description. Over here to the left are all of the templates that are available to document processes with. The very first one at the top here is called a work plan. So a work plan right here is a step-by-step set of tasks or instructions on how to handle customer complaints. I've got 2 work plans in this process. And I know I do because they're right under the title right here, work plan, and then there's these 2 titles. Underneath work plans, you have checklists. This process doesn't have a checklist in it. So you see right under this title right here, this is blank. There's nothing there. As opposed to the work plans, you see these 2 titles. Sometimes this confuses people. So the thing to remember is it's like a folder, it's like files. This is the work plans, this is what's underneath them. This is checklists, there's nothing there. Here's scripts, these are 2 scripts. So I'm just going to talk briefly about what these tools are, and then we'll dive into the work plan functionality. So work plan is a step-by-step set of tasks. A checklist is a list of things that can be checked off as they're done. So I'm going to go here to this work plan, and with this toolbar item right here, I can convert a work plan into a checklist. So right here, now there's a checklist here. And all I did was take the work plan up here, and with that one click, I turned it into a checklist. So you can see this is a set of tasks or actions, and it's right next to these checklist boxes that can be checked off. A script is a documented conversation or frequently asked questions. This template is used when there's a verbal interaction in the process and you want to write out how that verbal interaction is supposed to go. So anytime there's a verbal interaction, then the scripting template is good for that, to document that with. This is the uploaded files tool. Now there's not an uploaded file in this process, and I can see it because here's the title and there's nothing underneath it. So all I did was click on this title, uploaded files. This tool allows you to upload documents to the process. So anything that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF, you can upload that whole document to the process. The uploaded files tool will keep those documents in their software formats. So if it's a Word document, I click Word, and Word will launch and show me that document if I've uploaded it. The Documents tool right here is the most customizable of any of the tools. It's like a blank Word document. That's why we call it a document. So I'm just scrolling this down so you can see what it looks like when it's blank. So this is like a blank Word document. I could use the document tool to make a list of things, to write a letter, to put in sample emails, paragraphs of information that are necessary for the process. I can build a form like this one here using the table building rows right here. I could insert an image right here if I wanted it to be big, like 8.5 by 11. So anytime you have information regarding the process that doesn't fit into the other process tools for whatever reason, the document tool is a good tool for that. This is the custom form tool, which is right under the document tool, and I've got 2 custom forms in here. This is like Google Forms, if you've ever used that. You can create a form using short answer, paragraph. You can do multiple choice, checklist boxes, drop-down boxes. This is an example of checklist boxes. So you want to use the custom form tool whenever you have information that you want to collect while someone's doing this work. So if somebody is following the steps and you, meaning the manager, the company, needs information about what happened, then this is a great tool for that. Things like custom forms and checklists are completed on the dashboard over here. So before we end today, I'll show you what that looks like. We're just building them here. We're building the content. We're not using them here. So if someone's asking a question about running reports of checklists, I'll show you that at the end. The answer to your question is yes, so I'll reiterate the question and then show you how you do that towards the end. Next tool down here, this is called a policy note. So this is a template for documenting policies. And then at the bottom here, we have the video upload tool and audio. So if the process lends itself to a visual interaction of it, or a recording of a script or how someone's supposed to say something, then you can upload videos and you can upload audio files. And these are generally for training purposes. They just give someone more of an idea of how something should look or how it should sound. So let's go back up to the top here. To make a work plan, you just click the work plan title, and then you're going to be prompted for the name of your work plan. Underneath the work plan title is the objective. So the objective is the purpose of this work plan. If your process is only going to have one work plan, so there's not multiple things that happen, it's just one work plan, then generally speaking, the title of the process, which is right here, customer complaints, and the objective of the process is the same as the work plan. So remember that if your process is not going to have multiple work plans, so there's not multiple parts to it, then the title of that one work plan and the objective is the same as the process title. So this is the process title and this is the objective. There's no reason to force a different name. If there's only going to be one work plan, it's just called customer complaints. That would be the same name as the one work plan. But if you're going to have multiple work plans, so there's multiple parts to the process, then list out those multiple work plans and they'll be different than the process title itself. If you want to then go and edit the title of the work plan that you've created or the objective, it's just click to edit, just like everywhere else. Just click and it opens for you to edit. Click and this opens for you to edit. The work plan's got two sections to it. There's tasks, which are right here, and then there's expectations, which are right here. The tasks are the to-dos. They're the steps. They're the actions. Expectations are, I like to say, it's anything else that you want to say about this work plan that is not a part of the task. So it could be something subjective, it could be timing, it could be a quality, it could be an explanation of why something's important. So to start to build the work plan, you click Add Task, then you click open your task, and you type in the first step. So when you're beginning a work plan, it's good to think about, where does this start? Where does this action begin? How does it occur? So start at the beginning and type out the first task. When you write out the first task, you hit save, and then you go to the second task. So this is the second thing that happens. And then you save it, and then you go add task again, and then this is the third thing that happens. So think step by step by step. And every time you move from one action to another, click add task and add that step. Sometimes I see people just clicking one task, click one, and just adding everything here. So when you do that, you're kind of compromising the functionality of TouchStone. Because if you lump everything into one task, then it's not broken apart. You're having to add 1, 2, 3, 4 when TouchStone does that automatically. You can't then turn that work plan into a checklist because it'll all be in one task. You're going to miss some of the line qualities that happen on the dashboard and on the org job description if you're lumping everything into one task. This toolbar is pretty similar to most word processing that people are used to using. All these functions mean the same thing as they do in Word. You do have the ability to make bullets. So if you're making a list of things, then I think bullets is really helpful for that. So bullet this, and then bullet the next one. You can even do sub-bullets of bullets. If I hit enter here and then I use this indent, it's going to make a bullet of this a sub-bullet of this bullet here. I think the bulleting and bullets are really great for documentation. I'll show you an example here in a minute. But it's great because it helps you to make things look like a list. It's easier for someone to learn something if it's listed out in clear, specific steps. If you start to write in paragraphs of information, then it's harder to read it. It's harder to know the steps. One thing that's special about this toolbar row, actually two things, are the hyperlink tool and the image uploader. So this hyperlink tool will allow you to link between one thing and another inside of TouchStone. It also allows you to link to anything that lives on the internet outside of TouchStone. So to make a link, you just highlight the link word. All I did was highlight this word. And then I go here to the hyperlink tool and go insert link. Now when I hit the link type drop down, I see all the link options. This first is called an external link. So this will allow you to link to anything that lives on the internet. So all you need is the URL of what you want to link to. And then when that word is selected, it will take you to whatever URL you've inserted in here. So when I'm making links, I like to go to, I'm just going to go to Infusionsoft here. I like to go to the tool I'm linking to, and then I click here. Oops, sorry. I click here at the top and copy the whole URL, because this will take me right to that page. And then I would go back to TouchStone, and then I just insert this link directly into the URL. It's better than trying to type it out yourself, because you need the whole URL of that page. So you see I've got the HTTPS, all of that, and then I just hit insert. When you're hyperlinking from TouchStone to another web tool, as long as you're past the username and password screen, when somebody clicks that link, they're going to go right to that page. If they're not logged into that tool, like I was already logged into Infusionsoft here, this is our CRM. Because I was already logged in, it took me right to that page. So then you just hit save, and then there's the link. So I'm just going to do this again. I'm hyperlinking the link word. I go to the link chain. If it's not an external link, then it's going to be something else on this list. So you can link to a job description. You can link to a process, any process that you have inside of TouchStone, which will take you to that whole process. So if I choose process and I hit the drop down here, now I'm seeing all my processes in TouchStone in alphabetical order. All of them. I'm going to talk about titling things in a little bit, but I just want to make the point right here about creating titles. It's good to put the subject of your process title first and the verb or the adjective second. So you're saying this says accounts receivable. If I had titled accounts receivable processing accounts receivable or completing accounts receivable, like the adjective first or the verb, if I'm trying to hyperlink to that process, I'm going to see processing in the P section of this list. And I'm thinking accounts receivable. I'm not thinking processing accounts receivable. So then it's going to be like, well, I can't find it. Well, it's because you did put the subject first. So think about that when you're titling things. So you just choose the process that you want to link to and you hit insert link. You can also hyperlink to tools inside of a process. So to a work plan or to a checklist or to a script, the same idea. You just click what you want to link to and then you choose it from the list and then you hit insert. So hyperlinks help eliminate against redundancy inside of TouchStone, because rather than repeating things over and over again, tasks in a work plan, you just hyperlink to what you're referring to. This icon here is the image uploader. So this will allow you to take pictures and insert them into tasks. So you take a picture of how something's supposed to look. You can do a screenshot picture or a literal picture, and then you insert that using the image uploader. This is a tool a lot of you have seen me who've been on the webinars already have probably seen, but for those of you who don't know it, this is a tool called Jing. It's made by Smith Tech. They need to update their Flash. It also does video recording, which I think is cool because you can do like screen capture videos with it. But they're using Flash, which is about to be X'd out of every software program. So hopefully they update that, because now it's just pointless if you're creating videos in Flash. But you can do great screenshots with this tool called Jing, and this is their free version. So you could take a screen capture. This is their screen little X icon. So I just drag to what I want to capture, and then I just hit this capture, and now I've got this little snippet. So this kind of thing is great in tasks, because you can show how something's supposed to look. And then in Jing, I can do like these little arrows like that, and you can change the color of the arrows if you want, and you can put in text, so referring to something in the image, and you can make the text bigger or smaller. And then you can drag this text around, like this is what this means. You can do highlights of things like that. You can do shading. So I think this is better than most snipping tools that are like already in your Windows operating system. So then once I'm done with this, I just save it. I usually save these as the same thing, the same word. I usually save it as the word pick. And then the next time I take a screenshot, it overwrites that last one. So because there's no reason to save these if you're inserting them into TouchStone. So then you just hit the save button, and you want to save these in pictures, or I usually save them right on my desktop because then they're easy to find. And so then you'd go to the image uploader. You want to put your cursor in the task where you want the image to go. And I hit choose file. Then right here to my desktop, or you can just type in the word pick right below. Hopefully, I think it's this one. And then you just hit save, and the insert image, and then the picture appears. So once the picture's in TouchStone, I can make it smaller or bigger too, just by dragging in and out. All I'm doing is like holding my mouse click down, and I'm making it bigger or smaller, that picture. So you can size it a little bit. If your picture is huge, when you go to size it, at some point it's going to become unreadable, like right there. So you'll probably have to find a size that visually works. And then you just save it, and there's the picture. So if you're able to create pictures, then definitely do, because visually, if you can show how something's supposed to look, then you don't have to do so much in explaining it in writing. So let's talk about these toolbar items right here. This you saw me use already. This will convert a work plan into a checklist. So if I hit this check mark and say OK, TouchStone's going to take this work plan and make it into a checklist. Now it's right here, down into the checklist tool. It's still a work plan. So if I click back here, this is still a work plan, but it's been made into a checklist as well. So your work plan won't disappear. If you make a change to the work plan or the checklist, the two don't update each other. So if I made a change to this work plan, I'd want to delete this checklist and then remake the checklist so that it included the changes I made to the work plan. So that's convert to checklist. This toolbar item right here will allow you to move a process tool out of a process into another process. So this work plan here, if I decided for whatever reason that I don't want it here in customer complaints, it needs to be inside of another process, then I hit this little star icon. And then when I hit this drop down, I'm seeing all my sub-functions from the 4 key functions. So basically, I'm hunting for the process that I want to move this work plan into. So I would go to the sub-function where that process is, and then select the process from the drop-down list, and then just hit save. So now that work plan is out of this process, customer complaints, and it's been moved into that other process that I chose. So that's this little star icon. This is our export arrow. So this you'll see all over TouchStone. This allows you to print or export whatever you're on. So here I'm on this work plan, customer complaint processing. So if I wanted to print it, I'd hit print. I could export it to Word, to a PDF, or I can email it. This toolbar item is called the archive. So what the archive does is it will save versions of your documentation. So if I want to edit or change something, I can archive it first, and then I can edit and change this work plan. And then if I ever want to see what it used to look like, then I can go and view it in the archive. So businesses, depending on their industry, do this for various reasons. Some of you may archive things because you have to show versions. Like you're for compliance reasons or audit reasons, you're required to show versions. Those of you who are not required to show versions of your documentation may archive so that you can keep a history of how things have changed. Or if you're asking an employee to update something and you want to know what they changed, you want to be able to restore what it was before if they messed it up, then you can use the archive. So I think it's good practice inside of TouchStone if anybody's going to change anything significantly that they archive it first and then they change it. So to archive, you just click this little black box icon and say OK to that. Now a copy of this has been put in the archive. So now I can go and edit and change this all I want. And if I ever want to remind myself of what it used to look like, I go View Archive. I hit the drop down here, and I go to the tool that I archived. So here's Workplans. And then there's the work plan that I just archived. I can click on the title and see it right here and print it if I want to. Or I can restore it. So that's just allowing me to view it by clicking it. If I go here and hit restore, then it's going to throw that back into the active work plans. You'll see it's right here. So that's the archive. The black X icon is delete. So if I want to delete this work plan, I click, it says, are you sure? If I say okay, then now that work plan is gone. If you ever accidentally delete something on the process tools page, you can always go here where it says view deleted and restore it. So I just go to work plans here, and then I'm going to see what I deleted right here, and I can restore it. So on the process tools page, any tool that gets deleted, if you accidentally have done that, you can always, this acts like a big trash bin that you can go and view what's been deleted. You can put as much as you want. You can delete as many things as you want. That could be full of 100 things, and it's not going to affect the speed of your TouchStone account. But just know that this is kind of like a safe place to go to make sure that things aren't accidentally deleted. All right. So let's talk about what makes a good work plan. So this is a work plan that I created just to make a few points. So number one thing, think about how much detail is necessary in your work plan. So when I review work plans, probably, with other than rare situations, the number one thing I would say about the work plan is that it doesn't have enough detail. So consider what is required in order for your employees to be able to read this and know what to do, to be able to read it thoroughly, and it's got enough detail in it that they could follow it and know what to do. Now, some processes need experience and, practice and things like that. But for the most part, have your goal be that when somebody reads this, they pretty much know what to do if they follow it clearly. Now, in order to achieve that result, you need to consider the minimum qualifications of the person doing this work. So the minimum qualifications are what level of experience do they need to have before you would ever even hire them to do this type of work? What education do they need to have? What qualifications do they need to have? So a good place to identify all that is to go into the 4 functions to running the business to human resources and put in qualifications, qualities and qualifications, and then build some forms which say a salesperson or office manager, and just make a list of what the qualities, the education, and the qualifications of those positions should be. And again, this is what you would require before you'd even hire that person in. So from that perspective, then build your work plans. So for example, if you're hiring people who need to have college degrees, or they need to have degrees in engineering or civil design, or they're lawyers, high-level degrees, well, you don't need to write in your work plans how to engineer something or how to be a lawyer, because you've hired those people with that education. So that's an example of where that is your level of qualification. We're not teaching people how to do things that they learned in school. That is assumed because you're hiring them with that degree. Sometimes it's a little less clear. So you want to consider, how detailed do your work plans need to be? So another example, if we're writing this customer complaint process and we're hiring customer service representatives, and as part of their minimum qualifications, they have to know Microsoft Word products, they have to know how to search the internet, they have to know how to send an email, basic things like that you would have tested or verified their qualifications, then we don't need to explain how to click a website link or how to open up a Word document or how to update an Excel spreadsheet. We're assuming those things. When you start your work plan, also think about what I would call normal writing conventions. So a normal writing convention would be capitalizing the first letter of every word, like this: customer complaint processing. A normal writing convention would be to start a sentence with a capitalized word and then a period at the end. So think about normal naming and writing conventions. The reason why that's important is if you like things all caps and someone else likes things to be all lowercase, and I actually see people do this, all lowercase, nothing capitalized, then when one person goes to put in titles for you, they're going to have all caps, and then you're going to do it like this with the first letter, and then someone else is going to have all. It's just lack of consistency. Everything looks different. So decide for your business or for your department to use, I would suggest, normal naming and writing conventions. Here's a few more examples like that. Step number 3, determine in all caps whether this is a warranty issue. Well, someone's trying to emphasize that word by putting all caps, determine. Well, I may do that because I like how that looks, but then the next person's not going to do that. And so suddenly, again, the writing style is all different for your documentation. You want it to feel and look the same. Bolding and coloring things are also examples of that. If this is not a warranty issue, well, someone's tried to emphasize that point by bolding it. But here again, not everybody does that. And is that necessary? And is that going to cause you to have lack of consistency in your documentation? Or turning words red. I see this all the time. Bolding and turning things red. Well, someone may like that writing style. It may look good to them, but not to everyone. So my recommendation, again, would be use just simple language, clear, straightforward writing style. When you're writing your tasks, if you have tasks that look like this, try to rework those tasks. So this is an example in task number 2 here where someone is starting to write a story about what to do. And it's just a writing style that some people have. They're not writing technically, they're writing like in a novel type language. Locate the customer's invoice. If you can't locate the invoice, ask the customer if they have an invoice number or a copy of their invoice. Gather the following information, this, comma, this. So when I'm reading this, it's like, wow, my brain's trying to absorb it all, and it's in these sentence after sentence. It's not as helpful as it would be if I could see it in steps. So if you have tasks written like this, do something more like this. locate the customer's invoice. So this is an if-then statement, which is fine. If you can't find it, do this. I'd probably break that into a second step here. If you can't locate the customer's invoice, ask the customer if they have an invoice number. Now the next thing I'm going to is gather the following information. So this to me is like a second step. The first step is locate the invoice, and the second is start to gather information. So I'd probably take this out, cut that out, and then save this. So this is the step. Then I would add another task, and then I'd paste this in here for now, save it, drag this up and make it number 2, or number 3. So I made 2 tasks out of that one task. Then I click this open, and if you're going to have a list of things, it's better to do it like a list, not with commas. Commas is like when you're, again, writing a story. So for every comma phrase, make a bullet. Here's the bullet. So then I go down here, another bullet. So everywhere there's a comma, make it into a bullet. You can even, if you want to, do sub-bullets of the bullets. Break it up like that, and then save it. So now you can see these 2 tasks look way different than they did before. The difference is easy to achieve, but it's very impactful. When someone's learning this now, I'm seeing it as a list. I can clearly say, locate the customer's invoice. Here's the if-then. If I can't find it, then I'm going to ask the customer. Got it. Now I'm going to make a list of these things. So the point I'm trying to make here is in your work plans, try to go step by step, first of all. First step, second step, third step. When you end that step, go to the next step. Use clear, concise language and think in lists. Think in outline. Think in bullets and sub-bullets as opposed to sentence after sentence after sentence. If you are referring to something else in a process, another tool, a form like here, make hyperlinks. So this says, if this is not a warranty issue, proceed to the customer complaint form. Well, that form's right here, so I should make a link to it. Right here, that's another idea. If this is a warranty issue, follow the warranty and guarantee policy. Well, this policy is right here, so I've got a link to it. Script, I'm going to use this script in this situation. So I clicked providing a solution script, and that would take me to the script. Here's another example of the use of hyperlinks. This is the end of this work plan, and this says enter flags and actions into the CRM. So we have a process called how-tos for the CRM, and there are work plans within it which describe how to use the CRM. So CRM is just software like Salesforce, Infusionsoft, and when someone's going through this customer complaint process, they need to put in flags and add actions to the CRM. They may add flags and actions to the CRM in 10 different processes across the company. So rather than building the steps of how to add flags and actions into the CRM in this particular work plan, instead I'm going to make a hyperlink to a whole other process where that information lives. And then I can link this process, the CRM process, to any work plan I want to. And it's not creating duplicates that I have to update in 10 different places. So if we click this enter flags, see it's taking me to a whole nother process, running the business, IT, CRM how-tos. And then here I've got work plans for the basic functions of how to use the CRM. And in this example, entering CRM flags, this is a link to the CRM's help desk, which shows me how to enter the flags. So if you have software that has good tutorials in it and you can make links like this, it's a really useful thing to do because the employee doesn't have to search through the software's tutorials to find this. It's just one click and they're reminded of what and how to do it. So, oops, I'm just going to go back here. So think about things like this. This is an example of hyperlinking from this task to a whole nother process. Here are a few examples of expectations. So every customer complaint will be heard with professionalism and intent to resolve. Whenever possible, it should be resolved within 24 hours, so a timing expectation. Listen to their complaint. Be calm and respectful. So that's kind of a subjective quality that you want to get across. So let's leave work plans and go down to checklists here. So this checklist is one that I converted from the work plan up here, if you remember, using that convert to checklist. You can convert a work plan into a checklist and have a checklist, or you can click the title here, just like we did work plans, and click checklist, and then type in the name of the checklist, and then hit create checklist. So same as the work plans. Just click the title, type in your name, and hit create. So this is what a checklist looks like when it hasn't been built yet. If I click add checklist item, then I'm going to see two fields. I'll see the title field and the description field. The title field is next to the box. The description goes underneath. So this would be, further detail. And when I save this, you'll see this is next to the box, this title, and then the further detail, the description is underneath. So then add checklist item again. So this is going to be the second box, and then this is further detail. So this is more of the description of the second box. And then I just hit save, and now I've got two boxes. So this is how the checklist is built, kind of one checklist item at a time. A few techniques about checklists. In this further detail, if you've got paragraphs of information here describing what's going on here, I think it's making checklists probably a little bit more confusing than they need to be. A checklist is quality control. I should be able to, as the employee, just tick off these boxes as I do it quickly. The details of what happens in each of these boxes should be up here in the work plan. So if we go to this example, these are the steps. If this is a warranty issue, proceed to complete the customer complaint form. So each of these boxes should be easy. Just do it, do it, do it. If I need a further description or further detail of how to do that, that should be in the work plan up here, not necessarily in the checklist. So the point I'm trying to make is if you have really long, big checklists where number of boxes long isn't a big deal, but if they're like 4 or 5 pages because you have so much description here in the detail field, I'd suggest taking that detail and putting it into the work plan, because when someone's looking at a checklist, they're not being trained in how to do that work using the checklist. The checklist is just verification that it's done. Another point about checklists, if you're going to build a checklist, make sure that the intention is to have people use it. So if you're going to have a checklist, require people to use it. Otherwise, there's no point to the checklist. To require people to use it means that there has to be a manager checking to see that the checklists have been done. It's as simple as that. I hear all the time, well, nobody does the checklists. I have all these checklists, but no one will fill them out. It's because nobody's making sure that they do. Nobody's watching. Nobody's requiring them to fill them out. It also has to do with context of the checklist and purpose of the checklist not being communicated well. So if the employee doesn't understand why it's important to fill out the checklist, then they're likely not to do it. Combined with the fact that a manager is not even looking at them or even calling them out if they're not there, those two factors together are going to cause your checklist to fail every time. Most of the time, if an employee is explained to them why the checklist is important, they'll fill it out. It's important for quality control. It's important for quantification so that a manager can know how many things are being done and when they're doing them. It's important for innovation. It's important for reference. It's important for managers' efficiency, because if I have a checklist my employees are filling out, I don't necessarily have to go and ask them if they've done things, because I can go and see that they have. So if these benefits are explained to the employee, it's not just about having them spend extra time doing something. If you really explain the benefits, then unless they're just insubordinate and they just don't care, which is another issue, most of the time they'll fill them out. So let's go over here to the dashboard. I'm just going to show you how checklists are used. So over here on the dashboard, you create control panels for employees. So I have a control panel here for the manager of admin finance. And then because these people are underneath me on the org chart and have been assigned their own control panels, I see them here in management review. So if I go here to the manager of admin finance, my control panel, and I click the customer complaint process, now I'm seeing all the content that was documented here. These are the work plans here. Here are those checklists that I created, the scripting, all of it's here. Here's the form, the custom forms. I can't edit or change anything here. This is where I go to use it. So if I click here on this checklist, TouchStone's going to open a copy of this checklist. And then here I can go and tick off these boxes as I do this. I can save this as the customer's name that was complaining. The save as is what I can search for. So you want to have people save things according to how you would search for them. So in this example, the customer's name complaining is probably the best thing to save it as. Then when I save this, it date and time stamps it and saves a copy of it back to TouchStone. Once it's saved, I can also print it, and if I hit print here, I'm not going to do it, it will create a PDF, which I could then download somewhere else, or I could print. When we go back here, these checklists that were completed, I can see them over here in this completed folder. So I can look for them there, or I can run a report, which I'll show you in a second. Custom forms are also used pretty frequently in the control panel that we're in now. So if an employee is learning this, and they could go to the test right here and take the test, or they could go to the customer complaint form and fill this out as they're talking to the customer on the line and documenting what's happened in the process. And so same idea, they fill this out and then they save it. Over here on the reports, I can go to reports and I can go to control panel, and then I can search using the search criteria for what I've done in my control panel. So I could go to the start date, end date, and do it by timing. So here and here. And then when I hit run report, I'm going to see what we just completed here. So I see the checklist. I could search the save as title. So this is where I could search for the customer's name. Now this is to the question that someone had earlier. A manager can also go and run a management report. So I can run a control panel report, which I just did, or if I'm a manager, I can go here to management review, reports, and now I can search for what my employees have been doing. So under user, I can choose the name of the person I want to search for. If I don't choose a name, it's going to give me everybody. If I'm looking for a particular checklist that that person had been creating, I can search the save as title, so look for the customer if it's saved as the customer's name, or I could do a date range, or I could do a process tool type and just search for checklists. And then when I hit run report, I'm going to see a list of everything that Mary here has done, all of her checklists, and they're all listed here. This is a lot because I didn't search a date range. So this is how easy it is for a manager to check that the checklists are done. All they do is at the end of the week, end of the month, whenever they choose to do it, they go here to this date range and they search for all of their employees. I don't know what we'll see here because this is a demo account, but they just do a date range, hit run report. Then I see everything. Let me not search this. Everything that Mary has done listed here. And I don't have anything saved in this date range. That's not why you're not seeing anything. So the point is, it's pretty darn easy for a manager just to check that the checklists are there. Just go once a week, check that they're there, say, hey, Mary, where's your checklist for Monday? I just looked for it, it's not there. It only takes a few times for a manager to do that, for the employees to get it, that they're actually, somebody's actually looking, somebody actually cares. Here's another example of a checklist, which I think is a good idea. So this is called a daily to-do checklist. And this makes sense for some positions, not all positions. So I'm going to go daily to-do checklist here. So this is a checklist of processes. So this is just another thing you can do with the checklist tool, and then have employees use it on their dashboard. So at 8 a.m., the salesperson does the warm lead selling process. They do sales follow-up. At 11, they do contracts and proposals. At 1, they handle referrals. At 4, they do their sales organization. And at the end of the day, they help, throughout the day as needed, they help customers at the counter, and then they do their time log. So there are some positions in some businesses that are more rudimentary than others, so they do things timing throughout the day. But there are also a lot of positions where maybe you can't do time like this, but you basically have a list of the things they're supposed to do that day, and you just want to track that they're doing them. So if they click on this hyperlink, it would take them to the process for how to do sales follow-up right here, which can be useful. But when they're actually doing this for the day, they just tick off that they have done it, and then they save it. And now my manager can log in and see that I've done my daily to-do checklist. So this is kind of an advanced use of the checklist tool, but I think it can be great for certain types of positions. So I'm going to go back here to the 4 functions. I'm almost out of time, but those of you who want to hang on to listen to this, you're welcome to. I'll probably be like another 5 minutes. So I wanted to highlight some library processes that I think are really great, and they're related to customer complaints, which is the example we're using for documenting the process tools. These 3 processes, reputation monitoring, customer satisfaction, and customer complaints, are really important processes for every business to have. Now, you may be the type of business that doesn't do anything online and doesn't have a website and doesn't do social media and doesn't, for whatever reason, customers can't go on and say things about you, good or bad, on the internet. I would defy you to tell me what business exists nowadays that meets those criteria. None. So the point I'm making is everybody needs reputation monitoring. Even if you don't have a website, it doesn't mean that people aren't going onto the internet talking about you, good and bad. So these 3 processes all go together. Customer complaints, how to handle when your customers are unhappy. Customer satisfaction, how to know that they're unhappy. How to know that they're unhappy, because the majority of the time, when your customers are unhappy with the work that you're doing, you'll never know. They'll just never work for you. They'll just never come back to you again. They'll tell more people about how unhappy they are that they would ever tell if they were happy. So here's some client satisfaction statistics that I think are super useful. Price is not the reason why customers leave. It's actually due to overall poor quality of service. A customer is 4 times more likely to defect to a competition if the problem is service-related rather than price. Price is not everything. If you think it's all about the price, customer satisfaction is not related to price. The probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70%. The probability of selling to a new prospect, 5 to 20%. So those of you who understand the cost of lead generation, the cost of sales, the cost of goods sold in your business know that this is alarming. For every customer complaint, there are 26 other unhappy customers who have remained silent. 26 others that have remained silent. 96% of unhappy customers don't complain. However, 91% of those will simply leave and never come back. Number 7 is one that I think all of us know is true. A dissatisfied customer will tell 9 to 15 people about their experience. Around 13% of dissatisfied customers tell more than 20 people. So this means the customers are going to go away, they're going to be mad at your company, and they're going to tell more people about it than you realize. And they're going to do that online. So this process here it's pretty straightforward. It just says this uses surveys, which is fine, but I think in a lot of businesses it's worth the 5-10 minutes to have a customer service person call people after they've done work with you and say, hey, how did we do? Even in retail situations, this can be effective. What do you think of our store? How did we do? What was your experience like with us? These survey questions can be turned into telephone questions quite easily. So this is just a custom form which goes through a survey question. If you spend the money to have phone calls being made to your customers on a regular basis, it's going to come back to you 1,000 times over, and it's because of all of these reasons. So if I call somebody and they're not happy, I can use the customer complaint process to figure out why they're not happy and give a solution. When customers go away unhappy and you don't know why, then you don't know how to fix that. TouchStone gives you a way to fix it, because if a customer is unhappy because the service person spoke to them rudely or got mud all over their house or whatever the situation is, you can then go to your TouchStone process for that, improve it, and then train everyone on it. Now you're never going to have a customer again that has mud all over their carpet or whatever the situation is. So it's process improvement, and you learn that by understanding if customers are happy or not. The other side of it is, if you call your customers and they're really happy, you can ask for reviews. Ask for a Google review. Ask if you can quote them on your website. There's a huge benefit to that. So either way, whether they're saying things that you don't like to hear or they're saying things you do like to hear, these two processes cover that and help you to get the maximum benefit from it. This process here allows you, if you use it, this is a library process that you can download, understand what people are saying about you, whether positive or negative. So there's some work plans in here on setting up monitoring software. There's a list of popular monitoring software here, free. Some of these are all free. It's easy to implement software like this, and then you get notifications when people have said good or bad things about you on all different types of social media sites, not just the basic ones, but all sites. This has some documents in it on guidelines for customer interactions on social media. So things that you should be thinking about, like don't get into arguments online, apologize, listen. So when someone posts something about you, make a response. Here's a list of example responses that you can put on related to customer reviews. And then you can have a checklist like this. So this is a checklist that can be done on the dashboard once a month, where you have someone going in and searching your business name on Google. Did that. Set up Google Analytics. Did that. Ensure your visibility online. Manage customer reviews. So you've gone in and done all the responses. So this is just a checklist ensuring that all these steps of monitoring your reputation online have been accomplished. So these three processes can be downloaded from the library. I think they're just essential for a successful business. These three are, I'm in doing the business now. The reputation monitoring process is in getting the business. I just pulled it over here so you could see them together. So if you can't find that in doing, it's because it's in getting. Next week, I'm going to talk about the rest of the process tools. So how to use them technically, why you use them, and how to use them well. So that'll all be next week. Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye-bye.